Hi, everybody. The next chapter that I'm going to read from The One and Only Bob is called Early Days. I don't remember much about my early puppy days. It was 3 years ago, but sometimes it feels like 300. Mostly I recall fighting with my siblings for the primo meal spot. Lots of squirming and squeaking. Everything soft and milk smelling and movable, like we were on one great big complicated animal. I never met my dad, and my mom didn't say much about him except that he was trouble. Mom had a beautiful fawn coat, Chihuahua, some this, some that. Nice, messy bloodline. Mutts rule, and I'm a mutt. Mom crooned to us, told us stories, laid down the law. I wonder if she knew we didn't have much time to prepare for the world. We were born in a dark place, probably under some porch stairs, I suspect, since I remember the sound of boots plodding up and down, the biting and ugly smell of human feet. They called my mom Rio, and they fed her most days, although sometimes she had to fend for herself. She never showed fear toward them or respect. Indifference, I guess you'd say. Unless they tried to handle one of us, she growled then, hoping to make it clear that we were hers and hers alone. I myself got picked up a couple times. The hands reached in, grabbed. They were rough and smelled of strange scents and bitter meat. My mom's growl made me fearless, and I wriggled and yipped. The hands shoved me back into the warm place where I could sleep and drink and dream in safety. Still, I understood in my simple puppy way that dogs belong to humans, and that's how it was and always would be. My mom wasn't much for names. She'd had a lot of litters. I guess she'd run out of ideas. My brother, First, was Natch, the firstborn. Runt was my youngest bro. That was the last. Dot had a little spot on her back, and Yip was always complaining. I was Rowdy. Figures. And that left my oldest sister. We called her Boss. Boss was small but mean, with this distinctive sharp-sounding bark. She could outmaneuver any of us to the best spot for dining. I admired her grit, even if she did get on my nerves. When we got a bit older, less blind, more cocky, I fought her off constantly. But mostly Boss won. She was fearless, that pup. The truck happened without warning one night. They threw us in a box, left my mom behind. I can still hear her frantic howls. I landed in a muddy ditch. It was a cloudy night, nearly freezing. Even the moon abandoned me. And the smells. Everything so wild and unknown. Animals with big jaws and bigger appetites. Birds that swooped in to kill. And death and life all mixed up together. I searched for my siblings until the truth became clear. I was utterly alone. The next morning I began my slow journey, moving through the tall, wet grass, my limbs stiff from the cold. Now and then I drink from a mud puddle or gnaw on some grass. By evening I was wobbly with hunger and thirst. I followed the highway. Every time a four-wheeled creature roared by, I froze in fear. I knew that cars meant humans, and humans meant the possibility of living, just as much as they meant the possibility of dying. Darkness had fallen when it came out of nowhere. The owl, a shadow in a shadow. They don't make a sound, not a sound. It's quite impressive when you think about it. And there's the owl. Just as her talons, those marvelous weapons, raked my fur, I caught my right foot in a small hole and stumbled. If she had gotten hold of my body, I wouldn't be here. But all she managed to do was grab my tail. One time in my life, the only time I've regretted my handsome hindquarters. I was airborne, hanging upside down, dizzy and dazed, and just crazy enough to think, hey, I'm actually flying, before the terror hit me full force. I caught a whiff of other animals below. Later I found out they were gophers. Back then, though, I just knew I was smelling something completely foreign. The owl must have decided the gophers would make a more satisfying meal. She let loose her grip, and I plummeted to the earth. What do you think plummeted means? It's more, it's a a word that means a little bit more excruciating than just fell. He didn't just fall, he plummeted. So that makes you feel like he was very high and very scared, and it was a scary fall. Maybe it was my puppy fat or my soft bones or my incredible good fortune, but I didn't die. I didn't even break anything. I'd flown twice in my short life and lived to tell the tale. I found a small hollow at the base of a fallen tree, poked my nose in and got a swat and a hiss from a grouchy raccoon. Kept going, waddling, whimpering. Lights ahead, new strange smells. Kept going, kept going. It's amazing how much the sheer will not to die can keep you moving. I finally came to a small road curving off the main highway. Exit 8 to be turned out. A big billboard overhead and a picture of a terrifying animal on it. Of course, I didn't know what a billboard was then. Didn't know that scary animal was a gorilla, let alone that he would become my dearest friend. But something told me to follow the off-ramp, and eventually I ended up at the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, home of the one and only Ivan. I made it to the mall, slept in dirty hay by some garbage bins. The next night I found the hole in Ivan's cage. I stole his banana, slept on his belly, and the rest, as they say, is history. For 2 years I lived at that seedy old place and was part mall, part circus, and all crummy. But that was nothing compared to Ivan. He spent 27 years there, and our dear friend Stella, an old circus elephant, was stuck there for most of her life too. When Stella passed away, it nearly broke Ivan's heart. I tried like crazy to get him through those dark days, but what really saved him, I think, was Ruby, our baby elephant friend. Before Stella died, Ivan promised her that he'd get Ruby out of that awful place, and to my amazement, he actually pulled it off. Ivan and Ruby and a bunch of our other pals ended up going to different places, zoos and sanctuaries that knew how to take care of them. They're with others of their own kind, and they're loved and well cared for. It's been over a year now since they all moved, and they all seem so much happier. Me, I lucked out. My girl Julia, whose dad worked at the mall, decided her family needed a dog. Who was I to argue? 2 square meals, my own bed, and all the belly rubs I could beg for. What dog in his right mind would say no to that? The best part is we don't live far from Ivan and Ruby. I get to see them all the time. And I'm glad they're nearby, and I'm thrilled that they're settled in so well. Ruby and Ivan both, it's a solid situation. But it's not perfect. The way I understand things, it's like this. We live on a lonely ball called Earth, and humans have basically been throwing it against the wall for so long that the poor old ball is falling apart. It's like me with a tennis ball, chewing away until it's nothing but pieces of slimy rubber that taste, well, you know, like slimy rubber. That means there aren't many places left for wild animals. Seems there are some good zoos and good sanctuaries and bad sanctuaries, just like there are good dog families and bad dog families. The good places are trying to keep wild species healthy and safe. They don't want endangered animals to go away forever. They also don't want the earth to turn into a slimy, dilapidated tennis ball. And honestly, slimy rubber doesn't taste half bad. You should try it sometime. The thing is, I would give anything to see my dear pal Ivan deep in the jungles of Africa where he was born, or to see Ruby running across the savannah with a herd of elephants, her big old floppy ears flapping in the wind. I'd give up a mile-high pile of bacon cheeseburgers to see that all happen. I really would. But it's not happening. I get that, and so do they. When you're an animal, it helps to be a realist. That means it helps to be real about things and not live in the imagination. So next we will start chapter 2. Okay, see you next time.